How do we start?
I guess we start with this is the first episode of Two Cats Writing. We are your hosts, Catrina Taylor, and
Hi, I'm MJ Beasy.
we are both
And
authors. Our
Katrina is an indie writer. I'm a soon to be traditionally published writer. And so we're here to talk about our publishing journeys, to compare and contrast our experiences along our chosen paths, and hopefully provide some guidance and some advice for other writers along the way so they can choose their paths. Does that seem about right to you, Katrina?
it absolutely does, and hopefully along the way we'll be able to encourage others as well. If you're sitting there questioning your own journey, remember that it's all going to work out if you get started, and we're going to show you that because we both have our own stories to share.
Yeah. So let's maybe we should start with just talking about like kind of introducing ourselves. So, Katrina Taylor, who are you?
Well, I am a single mom, or I have been for the last while, and I've raised my kids as an author. I raised my kids doing the things that a lot of people tell you you can't do. I've got 65 books out under multiple pen names. I primarily
Wow.
write science fiction, and my first book went to number one in 2014, and it's been uphill ever since, with its own ride, with its own peaks and valleys, as with any business and anything you do. But you guys will hear more of that later. How about you, MJ?
So hi, I'm MJ Beasy. I'm a former professional stage actor and singer. And there are some little stops between those lives and this one, but mainly I eventually left the business. I moved into teaching voice full time in 2014 at a small performing arts studio that I shared with at that time with my parents. And I also, when I was there, I founded an opera workshop program for teenagers. And we produced a full length opera every summer until 2020 when the pandemic came crashing in on us and kind of stopped everything in its tracks. Today, I do still teach voice lessons, still mostly to teenagers. I also stream mobile games on Twitch 5 days a week. And I'm a YA author, and my debut is set for publication early next year. So, in contrast to Katrina's, what was that, 65 books? 65 books?
Yeah,
Is that the right number?
65.
65 books. I'm about to have one next year. But yeah, that's who I am. And again, probably just as with Katrina, more will be revealed as we go along. So I thought that today we should start off really just introducing ourselves to everyone and talking about how we got here, including like when did we start writing, how did we end up moving into writing as a career, and what made us choose the paths that we wanted to choose. To kind of give other people an idea of like how our journeys started, if they're similar to their journeys, that could be useful information too. So Katrina, how did you start writing?
That's that's a question I think a lot of us as authors answer with things like, "Oh, I started writing as a kid, and I always writing." And I think every author has that story of how they made their little books and as children, or how they went to a workshop or they did a thing and everyone complimented them. And I absolutely have that. But I knew I was going to be an author uh, right before I became a teenager. I knew I had three goals in life. I can honestly say I've accomplished all three of them, and one of which was to be an author.
Amazing.
Uh,
I want to ask what the other two were.
to be a mom, and I am,
Yeah.
and to teach. And I do that every day on Twitch when I'm live. I teach when people ask, or the things people ask. I teach now on YouTube when I put out videos. I teach in workshops at my local library. So while it's not a formal teaching position, I teach.
So how did you, so you started, you always knew you wanted to be a writer since before you were a teenager. Um, I guess what was your early journey then?
Like before, while I was starting,
Yeah.
my
Yeah, I'm so curious.
first attempt at a novel though was in middle school. My first attempt at a novel was I think it was in sixth grade. I did not finish it because we moved and I lost the manuscript and I was doing it by hand.
That's heartbreaking.
At the time, I didn't dwell on it, which is good.
I would have been so devastated in your shoes, I think.
Oh, in eighth grade, I had an opportunity to go to into a workshop with a known author. This is an advantage to being in New York. And I keep wanting to say it was Steinbeck. It was not Steinbeck. He does not line up with the timing. It was an S. I will tell you that. I cannot remember his name. I could see his face. It's terrible. But he came in and did a workshop with like 10 of us and complimented how well we delivered our stories and where we started, and then provided effective criticism, which set a lot of us on the right path, I think. So
That's fantastic.
it was kind of after that that I knew there was no turning back, that this was going to happen. It wasn't just a 12-year-old's aspiration. It was, no, I'm going to do this. And that I have.
my my story is so much less I guess linear in a way because I definitely didn't know I wanted to be a writer when I was a kid. I've been writing in some fashion or another since I was a kid. I started out with like I wrote plays for this collection of hand puppets that my father kept around for to do like using to use for like acting exercises and stuff. My mother was a singing teacher. My father was an acting teacher, and so I would write plays for the little puppets, and then I was also like writing without really thinking about it. By my sister and I had a huge collection of Barbie dolls, and I was very dominant in terms of like how we played with them. Like we reenacted all these stories, which were mainly me reimagining all like my favorite books and plays and things. I would sort of translate them into new adventures to play out with our Barbie dolls, and then when I was a teenager, I actually started writing some short stories that were really inspired by the sci-fi story collections that my mom kept around the house. She was very into science fiction at the time, which is funny because my father was the one who watched sci-fi on TV, but my mother read a lot of sci-fi writers, and I was especially enamored with Zena Henderson, who wrote a lot of short stories that were originally published in sci-fi magazines at the time, but then they were compiled and put into books. The most famous one probably being Pilgrimage. And I was very inspired by her, and I'd say all my original short stories that I wrote at the time were very much in the same vein. Like I just kind of wanted to be like her, and they were inspired by her. But then after that, like the thing that I always knew I wanted to do when I was a kid was to be in musical theater. Like I wanted to sing and act. And so I went to college for vocal performance. And aside from like this single semester of creative writing that I had to take as part of like as a required course in my BFA program, I really didn't write anything for years during that time. Like the whole time I was in school, really. The my career in that business, like I really put aside writing for that, even though I had, loved it a lot when I was younger. Then after I left the business, though, I found myself picking up writing again. First, it was fan fiction, which I just started writing on a whim. Then totally immersed myself in it in true ADHD fashion. Started it on a whim, and then it became an obsession. Then for a while after that, I was writing a lot for a blog that I started about Japanese comics that was called, and it is still called Manga Bookshelf. That grew into a blog network with a bunch of other writers, and they're mostly the people writing for it now. I still kind of manage the website, but I don't write much for it anymore. That was a really exciting time when I was doing that. It was the first time that I really tried to make writing into some kind of career. I went to conventions and things as press. I got to interview mangaka. It was very cool. I did a lot of writing, wrote for other outlets sometimes as well. But in terms of like career viability, it really didn't pan out the way I hoped. So when I made the move to teaching voice full time, in true ADHD fashion, my interest in writing about comics like pretty much evaporated. And then I threw all my energy into writing, all my writing energy into adapting opera librettos for my teen students for the opera workshop program that I ran. And then I guess moving into like how did I decide to make a career out of writing since you decided so early on. So for years I'd had this idea rolling around in my head that was based on a series of dreams I had as a kid. I'd even created a performance piece for it when I was in college. That was about it for my acting class, and I'd played around with trying to develop it as a graphic novel concept during the time period when I was obsessed with comics. But nothing really came out of it then. And then, like in the late 2010s, I started rereading books that my father had introduced me to years before by Annie Dillard. Her books are mostly nonfiction. In fact, maybe even entirely nonfiction. A lot of them are kind of science oriented, but there's also, she wrote kind of an autobiographical nonfiction novel, sort of, called An American Childhood that I reread at that time. And I found myself re-enamored by her voice as a writer, because it was so personal and so uniquely hers, and yet I connected to it so strongly. Like it seemed to connect to my inner voice in a way, and my inner world in a way that I wasn't accustomed to in other people's writing. And that I found really inspiring, and that made me feel like, oh, maybe I could do this too. Maybe I could write something that felt so personal to me, but that someone else would connect to this strongly. And so then, again, like kind of on a whim, like really suddenly, in 2018, I took that old idea that I'd had that was based on a bunch of dreams that I had as a kid that I'd, been carrying with me all these years, and I started writing a YA novel. And I didn't tell anybody about it for the longest time because I didn't trust myself to finish it. Even when during the days when I was writing fan fiction, like I wrote like mostly short pieces, nothing ever of considerable length, and I just really didn't have any confidence that I could write an entire book. And so I didn't want to tell anyone that I was doing it. But then I did do it. Like, and it's I wrote it in just a few months, which is fast for me. And I finished the first draft. I started right at the beginning of the year, and I finished the first draft just before I was going to have to start preparation for my student opera production for that year. Sent it off to beta readers, didn't touch it again until, till the end of the summer when the opera was over. And then I did revisions based on their feedback, and I started querying it a few months later. And then while I was querying that book, I started writing another one. That's the book that got me an agent, and is the one that's coming out next year. And so, like, it kind of happened pretty fast. It's like I decided I'm going to be a writer all of a sudden. And, but then, I don't do anything halfway. So once I was doing it, I was doing it the whole way. And it was definitely not like so many writers, like you say, have that story. I've always written since I was a kid. I knew I wanted to be a writer since I was a kid, and that's not true for me at all. But I guess that's just how my brain does things. I don't really regret coming to it a little later. I think that I'm a better writer now than I could have possibly been when I was younger. Like, I needed all that life experience to get to the place where I could write the books that I really wanted to write. So I guess the next question, and the thing that led us to this podcast in a way, is what made you choose the path that you took? Like, as you were coming to this conclusion that you wanted to be a writer, that you absolutely wanted to publish, like, how did you decide to go the indie path?
This is going to have a little bit longer answer, guys. Because
Excellent.
it took a lot more thought for me. At the time I started publishing, I actually initially I was going through a difficult time in my life, and I was making some major changes. And I started writing again because for a time that was taken away from me due to obligations and circumstances. And so I started writing again, and I started publishing it in its draft form in a couple of locations. I got some feedback, and then I put it onto Blogspot, and I got onto Twitter, and I started sharing out my link. I'd post a part of it to Blogspot, share the link. Well, I started getting people reading it, which surprised me. I had a couple people reached out to me. One person in particular taught me about the querying process, walked me through some of the querying, some query letters, taught me what to expect and when I should, or if I could expect anything in regards to payments and that kind of thing, explain the royalty process at that time, which I know has changed. A lot has changed since then. But he walked me through the process. He had been signed up for a couple of books himself and just was really enjoying what he was reading out of what I was sharing. So I got really excited, and I started to test those waters a little bit. I didn't really send out a whole lot at that point. He didn't talk about agents, so I was going directly to the publisher. We'll discuss that later in a podcast. So that was my first attempts, and the book wasn't even finished at that point, which again we'll discuss that later in a podcast. But as I got to about halfway, I actually had 2 separate agents that reached out to me, and I started to connect with people who were in the fledgling indie community at that time. And I was a new single mother at that point, and I had to pay my bills. I couldn't just sign a contract, and the difference between getting paid possibly maybe 6% royalties after advance, maybe, was not going to take care of 2 mouths to feed. It was going to provide a roof over our head. We would have been living with family indefinitely, and that is not okay. At least not for me. It's fine if your situation allows it. It was not okay for me at that time. I needed our space to grow and to do. My household is full of neurospiciness, so we needed the room to do the things that are
Same.
spicy. So at that point, it was a matter of what would pay me more faster. And by the way, I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
that faster really applied here because it still took me a year to earn anything that was going to actually pay any bills. But it was a process worth learning. And it was a process that I came to understand what it meant to be a professional through this process, as opposed to just writing your stuff and putting it out there. And as soon as you know you can release it on your own, there's this buildup of anxiousness of, I'll be an author tomorrow, I'll be published, I'll be live, I can do that. Except don't. I just don't. Just don't. That is not professional. But it was a brand new industry, and we had a lot of people growing around us and building with us as authors, as far as editors and book cover designers and such. And so we did the best we could with what we had at the time, and still somehow with the worst covers I think I have ever created in my life. And I did create them. Uh, I I got to book 3 in my unintended 4-book series. It was only supposed to be 3 books. It turned into 4.
If that isn't the most ADHD thing I've ever heard, I don't know what is. I tried to tell the story in 3 books, but
Yeah, it's an extra. And by the way, there's actually 5, in case anybody wants to know. Because I couldn't have the fallout just focus on one thing, and book 5 is really a bridge. But I'll get into that discussion another time too.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk. I'm excited to talk more in depth about your work eventually.
I write predominantly in series and serials, ongoing stories.
Mm-hmm.
If I put one down, I can come back to it at any time. So if I quote finish a series, it's probably not finished. I'm just finished for now. But after I got to the 3rd book, I had people hunting me down on Facebook. I had people tracking me down for that 3rd book to get it out. And at that point, somebody said to me, the Kindle is marked way down so that they can get people to buy the books. Not because they wanted it, they were selling it at cost at the time. They were selling it at or just above cost to make the Kindle. It was a loss leader. And so I turned the 1st book, when I hit publish on the 3rd book, I made the 1st book free. Overnight, there were thousands and thousands of downloads, which reaffirmed my decision to go indie as the right decision for me. That book at the time qualified as a bestseller at that time. But what really qualified as a bestseller was that the 2nd book that was not free did go to bestseller status. And all 4 of the first 4 books stayed in the top 50 on Amazon for science fiction for the next 3 or 4 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, which just, at that point you're paying your bills. You're covering, you're taking care of your family. You're able to walk away from whatever you're writing to be there because the school needs you, which is what I needed to be with our neurospiciness. You're able to be at every basketball game. You're able to be at every track meet. You're able to be involved, and that's what mattered to me as a mother. And it's very hard to do as a single mother. And being an author made that possible. We had other resources that would come in from time to time, but once the books went to number one, it was just a matter of being consistent with what I was doing and being involved where I needed to be. So that's
Yeah.
what drew me to indie and what made me realize, for me, indie was the right path instead of going through the query process that I know could have taken quite a long time. It's very hard to build on hope.
Yes.
And it's very, very hard to be available to your children if you're working 3 or 4 jobs just to make ends meet. And I was determined that was
Very
going to
true.
happen. So that's the essence of my indie journey. I had to come to a choice. I had to pay bills.
So,
What drew you tradition?
I obviously I made a different choice, but initially, I think I made the choice for really like a couple of reasons. First, like partly, I'd Googled things like how to get my book published, because I had no clue, which led me to websites mostly about breaking into traditional publishing and forums where people shared their advice and their querying experiences and did query critiques for each other and stuff. And so that was kind of laid out for me as like, this is the way to do this. And then also, it's not that I didn't know that indie publishing existed, but I'd written about manga for so long that I'd had a lot of interaction with the publishers that license those books in the US, and I was really friendly with their marketing and publicity people because I worked with them a lot, and I saw how hard they worked to promote the books. And that was not something I thought I could be good at, like really ever. Like I'm an introvert with serious social anxiety. I can't make phone calls. I don't really want to talk to people most of the time. Like you might not think that since I stream on Twitch like every day, but that's a very controlled situation.
Very different.
That's it's like it's entirely under my control, and I can hit the go offline button anytime. So everything that I saw those publicity people doing to promote books was basically my worst nightmares. The idea of trying to go that alone and be responsible for that myself seemed very daunting to me. There were definitely points during the period when I was querying my first book that I thought about changing gears. I had made a couple of friends who were in self-publishing or publishing with small presses, which I think was the kind of thing that you were probably looking at when you were submitting your things to publishers, like some of them anyway. And I wondered if I would be better off doing that too, because I saw them, like they had books published. But then I'd also made friends with people mainly on Twitter who were having success querying and were getting agents. And I think their experiences kind of helped me make the decision to stay on track with my original choice, even when I was feeling discouraged, which I was a lot, because I queried that first book that I wrote for a while. And probably the most pivotal moment for me in like really deciding what I was going to do and like the kind of point of no return for me was applying for Pitch Wars. Do you know what that is? So it was, I actually don't know if they're still doing it, but at least for quite a number of years, it was like a mentorship program. So they would, there were like published authors and other people in the business, like editors and folks like that, who would be mentors in Pitch Wars. And you would send in, like they had a very specific application which you sent in. You had to have a finished manuscript, and you had to be unagented, and you would send the manuscript, or you would send a query, like you kind of basically a pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So they say. You would send in a pitch, and to some, like you would choose specific mentors to send it to, and then if they were interested in it, they would ask for a full manuscript, and then after kind of a long period of all of them like looking at all the manuscripts they got and everything, they would each choose a mentee, and they would work with you on revising your book, and then at the end of the whole thing, there was an agent showcase. And so I made the decision to apply for Pitch Wars, and I also, at the same time, I decided, so I had started writing this other book while I was querying the first one, right? And I was like, I'm going to finish this book, but before the deadline, like in between submitting my application, but before they announce who the mentees are, I'm going to have this book finished. So no matter what happens, I'll either, like, if I get chosen for Pitch Wars, I will know what I'm doing then, because I'll be working with my mentor and like revising this book and getting it ready for the agent showcase. And if I don't get into Pitch Wars, if I don't get chosen, I'll have a new book that is ready, like basically ready to go out and to agents, to start querying again right away. So either way, I could feel great. Like, it would be win-win for me. And as it turns out, I did not make it into Pitch Wars. But I got a letter from the one mentor that I had chosen who had requested my full manuscript. And they have they don't have to send you anything at all. But I had gotten this really lovely email message from that mentor who, that was so encouraging and so complimentary of the book. And that it really, like, ironically, that rejection was such a huge boost to my morale. It really gave me the confidence to push hard, like, and go out and start querying that second book. And I did. And unlike the first book that I had queried for a year, with, getting a few full requests, but never getting any interest, never getting an offer, sometimes hearing nothing back at all, even after a full, and mostly I got a lot of rejections, but I sent this second book out and I had an offer from an agent within 2 weeks. And then, and so you do the call and you tell everybody else. I hadn't even sent it out to very many people, to very many agents. I'd started with a small list. And so I went back to that small list and I was like, hey, I have an offer. And that was that. The path was chosen. Like, I chose one of those agents and was on my way. So kind of to your point where you were saying like that your path was going to see return much faster. I mean, that's definitely the case. I wrote that book, the first book I ever wrote in my life. I wrote, in 2018. The next one I wrote basically the next year. And it's finally going to be published next year. So publishing is slow. Traditional publishing is so slow. Everything takes a really long time. So even when you say that maybe your path wasn't as much faster as you thought because it took you a while, I think it was still a lot faster probably. But I don't regret that choice that I made either, at least not at this point. I'm obviously right at the beginning of my career, whereas you are quite a ways in with your 65 books. So we're at different places in our publishing journey for sure. But right now I feel very happy with my choice. But I think, so the other thing that I thought we should talk about today, as we're introducing ourselves, is kind of why we decided to start this podcast, because I think that that's really to the point. Yeah. So we met each other on Twitch. We both stream on Twitch, in case you guys haven't picked up on that. We met each other on Twitch, and I think I rated you.
That is entirely possible. It's also entirely possible in the other direction, because we've rated each other how many times since? And
I know. I think it was me. I think they had just given us the new writing and reading category, and I was so excited to meet other writers on Twitch, And so every time I was doing like a productivity stream. So I only stream, for you guys to know, at this time, I only stream writing once a week. I stream games the rest of the time. Whereas Catrina, I think, mostly streams writing and
I stream
writing related things.
I stream sometimes 7 days a week, and of those 7 days, there's a very good chance 7 of those days will be writing related. Writing productivity, writing question and answer, writing chit chat, whatever is going on, it's writing. And cat chaos. There's a lot of cat chaos. I have lots of cats. They get in this cat chaotic. But those are my
Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
Those are my streams most days. But I like you. Once they gave us that writing and reading category, I had already been integrated with a lot of the writers here on Twitch.
Yeah, you already had like basically a whole network, right?
Mm-hmm. But the writing and reading category specifically gave us the opportunity to connect with those like you who are only in the writing and reading category sometimes. Yeah. And I love that they have been trying, the Twitch Writers Network has been trying to get a writing related category now for 8 years, I think.
Wow.
And they finally gave it to us last year.
Yeah. Well, and it's been great. I was so excited at first. So that's why I think that because I was just rating someone new every time. And I think I rated you, and like everybody I rated was lovely and kind. You and I just like hit it off right away, and then we found out we also played a lot of the same games. And sorry, my cat is like literally purring into the microphone right now, so you're getting like an extra cat. It's 3 cats writing right now. I think so we came over there. You immediately, when we started talking, you immediately offered me resources, like free resources and advice for marketing. Like you were like, I'm going to send you this and this and this, because that's how great you are. And then we just like kind of hit it off, and then I'm pretty sure, and like it was interesting to talk about the differences and the similarities in what we were doing, like along our separate paths, like what things were basically the same parts of our process, and then what felt just like completely different. I think we both found that like just kind of fascinating, and there's it's kind of weird to me that there is really like a huge divide, I think, between indie writers and traditionally published writers. Like your whole writing network on Twitch is like, I haven't found any other traditionally published writers on Twitch. They might be there, but I haven't found any of them doing writing on Twitch. Everyone's been an indie writer. Mm-hmm. It's like they're 2 separate worlds somehow, and I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding or like I don't want to say bad feeling on both sides, but sometimes, or at least negative views of one or the other path. And but you and I are kind of like, I don't know, like I have so much respect for you, and I think it goes both ways.
Absolutely. It absolutely does, because it takes a lot to go through the query process. It takes a lot to deal with the gatekeepers. It takes a lot to go through that process, even to just get recognized. Forget signed. Yeah. That's just getting started. And I only barely touched on that process early on before I decided to go indie. And it was already daunting to me then.
Whereas I find what you're doing so much more daunting, like the idea of having to be in charge of getting your own cover, like I just saw, this is like on the down low kind of, but I just saw like the maybe finished concept for a maybe cover thingamabob. But I didn't have to organize that. I didn't, like there are designers involved, like there are other people doing that. There's other people kind of taking care of all of that stuff. And so to me, the idea of having to organize all that myself and like just logistically, let alone like I feel like I wouldn't even know where to start. Though, for those of you out there feeling the same way, but feeling like that might be the path for you, Catrina is such a great resource because she'll tell you exactly where to start and what you need to focus on, like very clearly. And maybe if I had met you specifically before I chose my path, maybe I would have chosen a different path. I don't know. I'm really happy right now, like I said, but
I think this is working great for you, and I would hate to see you just change mid-path. So I'm
yeah, I
going
don't
to
think I would.
share a quick tidbit for everybody. Something that Publishers Weekly has been tracking since the start of what I consider to be and what many have called the indie revolution in publishing. um, they've been tracking sales numbers for both independents and traditionally published authors, and the people who are who are paying their bills the best and who are making great positions as brands and as individuals and making a name for themselves are neither indie nor traditional. They're hybrid. They're doing both. Those are the
Which is a
people.
whole other thing.
Absolutely. Those are the people who are making money consistently because they have books that other people are marketing for them when they have to run off to the basketball game. They have books that are other people are working with them on when they have to go and take care of a family member. Whereas those of us who are indie, our biggest obstacle is time. We can do
Mm.
all of this without any problems with the right guidance, training, and support, which are now available, which not available when I started this journey. But they are now because there's so many like me that are just like, I'm tired of this not being out there and so many people stopping because this isn't there. So they've made things available. And obviously, those in traditional publishing were not excited about those of us who are in indie to start with. But they have come to see that we can be professional, we can meet quality standards, we do understand the concepts that need to be applied and why they need to be applied. And we are producing professional quality products today. Not so much when we were starting because we didn't know what we were doing. And that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths because they weren't seeing it from the perspective of this is a brand new industry. This is a brand new opportunity. And so we've come a long, long way as independents, but it's the hybrids that are still blowing us out of the water. It's the people who are doing both that are making the most money because like you, they publish traditionally and then they take their nice, pretty finished manuscript after however long their little finished publishing journey is, recover it and publish it on their own.
Yeah, the rights do revert back to you eventually too. That's definitely a thing. There's so much I didn't know about publishing. Like so much of publishing is such a mystery, and I think wouldn't make sense to anyone outside the industry. And obviously, I'm talking about traditional publishing right here. Like it's all so mysterious. And you were saying like indie authors it's a matter of time, but you can do all those things. I'll tell you, like we have time.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much time, but it certainly is a challenge. I think it's very hard to get an agent, I think, and then once you have an agent, you think like, oh, I've won, I made it. But then you don't realize how daunting it's going to be on sub and like have your agent submitting manuscripts to publishers and how long that can drag on and how disheartening that can feel when it's not going the way that you want it to or the way your agent wants it to. So there's definitely, I don't know, pros and cons to both things. It's just, I think that the thing that you and I have wanted to do is be able to listen to and talk about the pros and cons together and talk about them at the same time, because I think most of the time when you're getting a list of, when you're having someone talk about the pros and cons of either indie publishing or traditional publishing, they're coming from a viewpoint of valuing one over the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so our goal is to not do that. Our
Exactly.
goal here is to talk about these as sort of distinct but parallel industries that have the same end goal of selling books, like getting good books out there. And so yeah, we started talking about that. I think the way that this happened was we made a joke about starting a podcast, and then once again, in true ADHD fashion, we spontaneously said, yeah, okay, we're gonna do it. Like, it just became a plan that one day.
It's kind of funny because I had been talking about starting a podcast with someone for a while, and everyone that I kept thinking about as to good candidates to work with were all people from a different perspective in this. One of the people I considered talking to actually focuses on nonfiction versus fiction, and I write predominantly fiction.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
And he has actually sold his KDP business, and he focused mostly on KDP, which I do not. Also, I'm a wide author, so there's a lot of things that I do different than a lot of other people. We'll call that ADHD, or we'll call this I refuse to put all my eggs in one basket, or we could say I'm stubborning everybody. Whatever you want to call it, it all works. But
so we joked about it.
Mm-hmm.
We decided to do it. We're like, yep, we're doing a podcast.
Yes. When it came in a joke,
I feel like we decided it one day. Like,
yes.
We just like we were just like in a VC together. Mm-hmm. While one of us was streaming, or both of us were streaming, maybe even.
Yeah, I think we were both streaming.
Both streaming. And we just decided to do it.
Yeah, you may have joked it, and I immediately said, oh, why did I think of that? Like, that's what went off in my head. And I jumped on that, and then I think Decaf or whoever else was in the VC with us said something. That sounds like a good idea. And then both our chats had at least one person or a couple of people showed up with, that would be fun. And it was just, it's been.
And then there we were. And here we are.
So, like, we determined we were good to do it, and we got market confirmation that this was a good idea from those right there saying it was a good idea all at once.
I'm so excited. Like, every time you say like that you've published 65 books, I kind of die a little bit inside, because that's so huge to me. Like, that's so I'm not a super fast writer. I'm not super prolific. And like I said, I only started writing, like, I wrote my first novel just a few years ago, which I'm actually hoping to revive that first novel, by the way, someday. We'll see what happens. I have plans for it. But right now I'm obviously pretty focused on the book I have under contract, and it was a 2-book deal, so I have another book that I don't know that I can talk about yet exactly. That's another thing that we'll be talking about on the podcast, is about how I can't talk about things a lot of the time because of the fact that I'm under contracts, and like, there are professional concerns involved with, like, I need to be very careful about not revealing anything too early, about not talking about anything that isn't explicitly contracted and explicitly public yet. Whereas Catrina, you are the publisher, so you can talk about whatever you want, whenever you want.
Mm-hmm. And you will hear me say many, 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 many times to all authors, you should be talking about the creation you're doing before you publish it, before you query it, before you anything, because you got to build a community. You got to build your connections. So you'll hear me say that a lot. Now, once you query it, once you got that under contract, you got to follow your contract. So there's that.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
And follow it hard, because the last thing you want to do is mess that up. But
Right. Don't tank your careers, friends. Meet your deadlines and follow the rules. It's funny because I wasn't always such a rule follower. I hadn't really necessarily intended to talk about this, but like, I did try to do in music what you're doing in publishing now, like way back. So before there was an indie writing revolution, there was an indie music revolution. And I don't just mean like indie the genre, but way back there was at the birth of mp3.com. There was a whole movement and musicians who had started like going out on their own rather than just being having their music published by their recordings published by labels and produced by labels. Ani DeFranco is one of the people I always think of as being on the forefront of that, because her Righteous Babe Records was her own record label, and that was just not something that people did back then who were serious about having a career, you know. And but with digital music sharing becoming a thing, and it becoming much more easy to distribute things digitally and find an audience, there was kind of this whole revolution around that, and mp3.com was like a big part of that. And I was doing this singer-songwriter thing at the time. I had been I was on the road with play. This is still when I was acting professionally. I had like started playing the guitar and was writing songs, and I wrote a lot of songs while I was on the road, and I wrote a bunch when I got back, and recorded my own album. But I was sharing that music online. And I think in retrospect, I think that this might have played a part in my decision to not do this with writing, because, I recorded that album, right? I hired the engineers and like had a producer and made the album and distributed it through CD Baby, which at the time was like the platform really for selling self-produced music. And you could sell CDs through them, and they shifted to, now I think they mostly do digital. No, they probably still have hardcover CDs, who knows. But in any case,
for them.
You guys have never heard of me. Like that album, like it's there and it's out and it's available on like all your streaming services, whatever.
And you guys
for now,
look
but like,
for it?
and it's been there. But you guys have never heard of me because that didn't go that well. Like I didn't publicize my work well. I didn't know I couldn't be Andy DeFranco. Like I didn't know how to make a career that way. And so when it came around to writing, I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that again. Because I obviously didn't have it in me. I obviously didn't have it in me to be everything, to be the producer, to be the distributor, to be the person like getting the music out there and selling it. And I guess I kind of learned that about myself at the time. And so I'm sure that fed into my decision to do this now. But it's funny because like no one thinks now of like artists taking control of their own work as being a negative thing. Like Taylor
Right.
Swift, got the rights back to her music. And,
The-
obviously that's an extreme example of someone extremely rich and successful doing that. But like nobody thinks like, oh, that's a mistake.
Right, exactly. And it's her position as an extremely wealthy, well-known artist that makes it less weird, less frowned
Yeah.
upon. I have many times dealt with, even today, there's a couple of authors that if I'm in an online forum and someone's talking about authors or getting published and they try to talk about why they should go one or the other, and I consider providing my experience, I have gotten to the point where I have to look for some of those authors that are going to spew toxic venom into the conversation, and then I just don't respond, at least not publicly.
Yeah.
I'll sometimes respond to send someone a private message like, look, I've been doing this for more than a decade now. There are resources out there to do the thing if this is the way you want to go, but just don't rush it. And don't assume that just because you finish the manuscript, it's ready for querying or it's ready for publishing, because it's not. Just
Yeah.
because you finished it, there's more steps. And those will come later in the podcast. We'll tell you more about what makes it professional, what makes it ready for publication. We're also going to tell you what is enough.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I feel like obviously one of the advantages of traditional publishing is someone else decides that for you when is enough. You know, someone else says, "Yes, this is finished and it's going to go out now." And you don't have to make that judgment call yourself, which I think has to be like difficult and I don't know, kind of daunting, like terrifying. Like, I've decided this is enough and I'm putting it out there. What if people don't agree? Like, has to be a little scary.
I am 65 books in, and every time I go to hit publish, I will tell you it is absolutely terrifying. But
Yeah.
I
Well,
know I have the experience now. I know I have the
right.
knowledge now. And if anybody tries to tell you their first 5 books, they are suddenly professionals, just smile and nod, smile and nod, and remember that they are still learning too, and that
Yeah.
they will accept their position in another 4 or 5 books. They will accept reality. Because it's you need
Well,
probably, I would imagine 10. 10 because you got to get through this process a handful of times to know what you're doing. You got to know what you're looking at. And I think that applies to both sides, but we'll explore that more deeper or more
yeah, for
deeply
sure.
because you're
I
learning
think,
these things.
yeah, yeah. Well, I certainly hope that we all become, like, consistently become better writers
Oh,
over time and better editors of our own work over time too. Like, you know, I work with my agent editorially. Like, he's a very editorial agent, and certainly the editorial process on the book that's coming out now, like, between us, was like it went on for a while, and then while we had that book on sub, I wrote another book, and when we got into the revision process for that, like, it really just took like one edit letter from him, and then he was like, "Oh, after that, like, oh, you nailed this." And and hopefully you guys will see that book sometime in the future too, but it'll be way in the future cuz I'm in traditional publishing. So, you know,
maybe,
someday.
maybe we'll both find a way through this podcast to go hybrid.
Maybe. Um so anyway, I think to wrap things up here, for this, so this has been kind of an introductory episode, like sort of introducing us to whoever's listening out there and telling you who we are and what are some of the things that they can expect to hear from us in future episodes.
And we've talked about some of that and saying things like, you're going to hear about if an agent reaches out to you instead of you to them, what you're actually probably looking at. Reaching out directly to a
Yeah.
publisher, we're going to talk about what's involved in that, and setting standards and understanding what those standards are, and that it's not just traditional versus indie. And that's kind of our biggest mission: is this isn't traditional versus indie. They're both valid paths forward, and we're looking forward to sharing with you what those paths look like, and how it doesn't matter who you are. If you are determined to get published and to be published, regardless of the path you choose, it can happen.
It can happen, even when you stop believing that it can happen. All of a sudden one day maybe you get that email and everything changes. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about that too. And especially, I'm going through my publishing journey being under contract for the first time and having a book published for the first time. So, we'll be able to talk about the stages of that along the way and kind of compare that to parts of Catrina's journey, that like how that lines up with like her publishing a book, me getting a book published. What are the ways that those line up and are the same? What are the ways they're different? So that you guys, no matter what way you choose or both, you have an idea of what to expect, how long it'll take, who will be involved, what your roles will be in that process, and what's expected of you by either your publisher or your audience. And I think there's a lot of stuff we can talk about there too.
Absolutely. So we are looking forward to talking with all of you in the next one.
That's right. Thank you so much, Catrina, for talking to me. This has been so much fun.
This is one of the things I'm looking forward to. I love talking to you anyway. I think we're both going to have a good time with that part.
I think so too. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.